Okay, Drive Away Dolls, a comedy road movie directed by Ethan Coen, in which he also co-wrote with his wife Trisha Cook. The film follows Jamie, an uninhibited free spirit bemoaning yet another breakup with a girlfriend, and her demure friend Marian, who desperately needs to loosen up. In search of a fresh start, the two embark on an impromptu road trip to Tallahassee, but things quickly go awry when they cross paths with a group of inept criminals along the way. Now, I did have fun with this movie. I did enjoy it to a degree. But when it comes to its tone and its humour and with what it is trying to be, it's trying to be, I felt like, very sort of experimental, edgy, different, but it's just so inconsistent. The humour along with the tone just really doesn't seamlessly sort of work together as one. For example, the movie opens with these sort of beautiful close-up shots, for example, of neon lighting, which sort of really sets the scene. It sort of immerses you into this kind of very gritty scene full of mystery. And then that kind of scene quickly evolves into something that's very silly and just sort of has this kind of very childlike comedy to it. And so you get two very different tones within the first 5 minutes of this movie. And that really sums up this overall experience. There is so many they're trying to do so many different things with how they tell this story. I mean, there's large portions of this movie that reminded me an awful lot of Tarantino even, that it doesn't even have its own identity really. Like you've got that kind of classic Coen brothers humour here, which I'll be honest with you, I haven't really been a big fan of in recent years, but everything just feels very inconsistent and it all just doesn't quite work as one whole. And so as a result, this movie, I had fun with it. I did enjoy it to a degree, but I think a lot of that was just down to the fact that it sort of ends up becoming a fascinating experience. And just going back to the humour, like, there is sort of the odd moment here and there that kind of made me chuckle, but it didn't really do an awful lot to me. You know, the comedy within this movie just didn't quite work for me. And again, it is very inconsistent. Like, you've got these sort of different styles and tones when it comes to the humour. You have got, in moments, you know, that very kind of classic Coen brothers humour, which, as I just said, you know, in recent years, I've not really been a massive fan of. I'm a big fan of Fargo. I absolutely love that movie, and I find it hysterical. But I just don't feel like they've really done anything since Fargo, to be honest with you, that has really made me belly laugh, like proper laugh out loud. And I just feel like they've never really been able to kind of replicate the kind of humour that they created, that kind of humour that they established within Fargo. But at the end of the day, that's just my personal opinion, because I do think that the humour within this movie will work for other people. It just, for me personally, it just didn't really work, and it is inconsistent. You know, it's sort of all over the place. For example, you've got some sort of like really kind of crude, edgy humour, but then you've also got some sort of over-the-top, sort of childlike, silly humour as well, and it's just sort of almost cartoony, and for me it just didn't quite blend together to sort of create one seamless experience. And the film never really seems to take off. Like, the third act, its climax, and sort of, you know, the conclusion to this film is very, very flat. Like, it really kind of falls on its arse, really. And sort of the entire experience, even though I was quite fascinated by it, and, you know, there were sort of aspects to the movie that I liked, and, you know, as I said, I did enjoy this to a degree, and it was somewhat fun in moments, but it had this kind of one note to it. It had a very sort of one note when you're sort of going on this road trip with these characters, but nothing really sort of stands out or sort of amounts to anything. There are certain aspects that I really liked, that I appreciated in the way in which they told this story, where it be, you know, the editing and how sort of each scene would sort of transition into the next, and sort of how you would see certain characters' stories. So for example, you'd see this certain character's journey through the eyes of the character where he's hallucinating because he's under the influence of drugs, and you've got Miley Cyrus doing her thing, and you get a couple of these odd moments that would just appear randomly through the movie. And I kind of liked that. It was fascinating, but at the same time, it sort of summed up my frustration with the film, which was, it was all just a mishmash. It all ended up becoming a mishmash of different styles and tones, and just very kind of, just like I said, inconsistent. But I couldn't help but be fascinated at the same time by the way in which they were telling the story. I thought it was creative, even though it was very heavily influenced by other directors as well. So as a result, I felt like it was kind of, even though it somewhat felt like a Coen movie, it also kind of lacked an identity at the same time. Like it was just trying to be a number of things. And even though the humour, for the most part, really just didn't work for me, I feel Margaret Qualley, who plays our lead, did a really good job at delivering the humour. And I just liked what she did with her character. I think she gave a really sort of good, solid performance here, and it's a character that I warmed to, and I really just wanted to see more of. And again, I think for me the frustration was more in the writing. I think she did her best job at delivering the humour and performing as this character, but I feel like it's the writing that kind of let her down. And again, maybe a lot of this is just down to personal preference and the way in which sort of, Ethan Coen and his wife Trisha just write. Again, it's got a lot of that kind of Coen, sort of Coen-ness to it, you could say. And I've not really been a big fan of it in recent years. And I just feel like that kind of what sort of led to me being quite frustrated with this. And then on the other hand, you've got Geraldine, who plays Marian, her friend, who's a lot more reserved and shy and sort of not as confident. And even though she conveys an aspect of her character pretty well, and overall, her character just didn't quite work for me. Again, just like sort of like the film really as a whole, I felt like her performance was quite one note. And when it came to the humour, I just don't think, when it came to delivering the humour, I don't think Geraldine was quite as effective as Margaret was with sort of, delivering the comedy aspect. I just feel like her character overall just didn't quite work for me. Her performance didn't quite work for me, even though she does convey sort of what this character is, the Marian character, which is the more reserved character. So yeah, Drive Away Dolls, a bit of a mixed bag for me. It's a mishmash of styles and tones, I felt. It's a fascinating experience, and I'm not going to say I didn't enjoy it, but there's different degrees of enjoyment, and I had fun with it, but it just also, like I said, that third act and the way in which it just sort of falls on its arse, and sort of its climax where you've got Matt Damon's character and everything going on with Matt Damon's character, it's quite funny and it's sort of obscure, but it sort of as an overall experience lacked any impact. And I was sort of left wondering, what was that movie? What was it they were trying to do? Because I felt like they were trying to do different sort of things in how they told the story, and it just didn't all sort of work as one kind of seamless experience. But it was a fascinating one. But, like I said, as you could probably tell, it was a very mixed bag for me. I do think there are going to be people out there who definitely enjoy this movie more than I did. But this is how I felt. It was a bit of an average one for me. A fascinating one, but quite average. And so yeah, they are my thoughts on Drive Away Dolls, and I will be giving Drive Away Dolls a 5.5 out of 10. So yeah, they are my thoughts on Drive Away Dolls, but what did you guys think? Did you love it, or did you hate it? Did you agree or disagree with anything I've said? And please let me know in the comments below, and let's get a discussion going. And if you have made this far into the video, thank you so much. I really do appreciate it. And if you want to watch future reviews from just some random Welsh geek rambling on, then please hit the subscribe button. It will mean an awful lot to me. My next review will be for Late Night with the Devil. I'm really looking forward to checking that out and checking it out this evening. And I will have a review up for it by probably Thursday. So yeah, thanks for watching. I really do appreciate it. And I'll be catching you guys soon.